Thank you.
By the HMRC after being cleared of tax avoidance allegations. Ms Rayner says she has settled an outstanding bill relating to the purchase of her flat in Sussex without having to pay a penalty. Our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman, says the development has many Labour backbenchers wondering if she will launch a leadership bid to challenge Sir Keir Starmer.
It's the biggest development of the day so far by some distance. Her tax situation was the major obstacle to Labour MPs, including Labour MPs who really like her, from even considering the possibility that she might stand
Linksafslaan naar Pleasant.
That obstacle is
Over
now
900 meter. Rechtsafslaan naar Bernard Terrace.
Is settled.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has told the BBC that any leadership contest would plunge the country into chaos. Yesterday, allies of Wes Streeting said the Health Secretary was planning to launch his own campaign. Under Labour Party rules, any leadership challengers would need the support of 81 MPs to trigger a contest. Meanwhile, all 129 MSPs are being sworn in at Holyrood today. The SNP's John Swinney was first as leader of the largest party, followed by the other leaders. The rest of the MSPs are being called forward in alphabetical order. In the afternoon, a new presiding officer will be elected and 4 candidates are standing. The UK's economy saw surprise growth in the first 3 months of the year, despite March seeing the first impact of the Iran war. The Office for National Statistics
Over 500 meter. Rechtsafslaan.
Was boosted by the services sector. Air passengers in Europe have been warned that flights will inevitably become more expensive because of the impact of the Iran war on the price of jet fuel. The head of the International Air Transport Association, Willie Walsh, says companies have been offering discounts in order to entice reluctant travellers, but that can't last forever. Mike Tibbert is on the committee for the Scottish Passenger Agents Association.
If we're honest about it, probably with the fuel issue, the prices are going to go up from an airline's perspective. So our advice definitely is to book now, make sure you get your price locked in, and that'll guarantee you any issues for future.
Firefighters have worked through a second night tackling a blaze at a waste facility at Ladybank in Fife. 5 appliances and specialist resources were still at the scene at daybreak. Fife Council said the closure of the facility may lead to some short-term disruption to bin collections. Scientists are warning footballers at this summer's Men's World Cup in the US, Canada and Mexico could face serious harm from extreme heat and humidity. They say FIFA's plans for 3-minute cooling breaks will not be enough to stop players' core body temperatures reaching dangerous levels. Climate scientist Theodore Keeping says he's also concerned
Rechtsafslaan naar Bernard Terrace.
We'll expect 25 games to be played over 26-degree conditions, give or take, and about 5 games to be played over that 28-degree threshold. Now, most of those will be in these air-conditioned stadiums, but that's not to say that fans in outdoor
Linksafslaan naar A7, Southclerk Street.
Unlikely to be affected by those.
Linksafslaan naar A7, Southclerk Street.
Words on travel now in the Highlands. The A82 Speen Bridge is partially blocked in both directions. That's near to Achnehoe Farmhouse Turnoff.
Over 2 kilometer. Linksafslaan naar A772, Gilmerton Road.
More widespread across the country, some heavy with a risk of hail and thunder driven in on brisk northerly winds. Highs of just 9 or 10 Celsius in the north and east, 10 to 13 in the south and the west. And that's BBC Radio Scotland News.
Ina, thanks very much for that. Well, one story that everyone's talking about, not just in sport today, but it seems everywhere, in every street corner. Martin Dowden is here to talk about that.
Absolutely only one story in town. It's the fallout from Celtic's staggering 3-2 win over Motherwell last night. An incredibly controversial penalty award late in injury time after a VAR check means if Celtic beat Hearts on Saturday, they'll be champions. A draw better for Hearts, and their fairy tale comes true. A first league win in over 60 years. That penalty decision the centre of global debate, it seems. We'll hear from journalists and referees through the show, and I'll also speak with a sports psychologist who's worked with Hearts and Scottish refs this season on what impact last night might have, all on the line this weekend.
Good stuff, and we'll talk about that shortly too, Martin. I speak to you later, but first to Westminster. Let's get the latest on the political manoeuvrings there. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has told the BBC that any Labour leadership contest would plunge the country into chaos. The Prime Minister's battling to save his job after 4 ministers quit and dozens of Labour MPs urged him to resign after last week's heavy election losses. Well, this morning his deputy, Angela Rayner, dropped a bombshell confirming that she had been cleared by HMRC of any wrongdoing over her tax affairs. Speaking to ITV, she wouldn't be drawn on whether she might challenge the Prime Minister.
What's happening in the Labour Party at the moment is we've just had a severe beating off the electorate, and our ministers, our cabinet members, our Prime Minister and our members and our voters are saying things have to change.
And some people say change the leader.
Well, some people are saying that, but what I'm saying is the delivery of what we promised the electorate is the most important thing that we need to be concentrating on at the moment.
So
and I'm not getting into hypotheticals about leadership at the moment.
Well, meanwhile, allies of the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, said they expected him to launch a challenge as soon as today, but nothing as yet. Let's speak to our political correspondent, Paris Corsianos. Paris, afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
It has all gone a bit quiet then from Wes Streeting.
Yes, it has, and that really is what everyone is waiting for. His camp are briefing that he has the numbers, the 81 nominations that he needs to trigger a leadership contest, but he obviously hasn't done that yet. In the Prime Minister's camp, a growing sense that perhaps he hasn't got the numbers, and that the Prime Minister might be safe, at least for the time being. In terms of what we do know, sort of on the record and as fact, because it's Angela Rayner has said it herself on camera, is that we know that the former Deputy Prime Minister is not going to face any further legal action or be pursued by HMRC over that tax bill. That does, at least in the strictest sense, free her up to potentially run in a leadership contest, although the question remains of whether she might be politically damaged by the fact that that row took place at all. She isn't saying that she will stand, but it is expected that she might if a leadership contest was triggered and Andy Burnham wasn't able to find a seat at Westminster in time to take part in that leadership contest. So Angela Rayner might represent the hopes of the left of the Labour Party. But really, where we are now is a waiting game, and the longer it goes on, the less likely it seems that Wes Streeting will be able to trigger the leadership contest that we all expected today. But we wait and see.
And it's interesting just the timing of
meter.
all this news.
Links afslaan naar A772, Gilmerton Road.
Just before the state opening of Parliament, so I suppose she sort of felt she couldn't make it known until all of that had got out of the way.
Well, indeed, and ultimately that was a private matter, and in her gift to sort of, because she's obviously not a government minister anymore, but perhaps in the expectation that there might be a leadership challenge today, and she wanted to sort of clear the decks and let it be known that she wasn't facing any further legal pursuit over that tax bill. But it is an extraordinary kind of convergence of events that detail would emerge this week.
So what happens, Paris, if there is no formal leadership challenge then? Does Sir Keir Starmer just get his head down and get on with governing as he said he would?
That certainly is, from Number 10's perspective, what would happen. And actually, just in the past few minutes, we've had the usual normal briefing from the Prime Minister's official spokesman where, and this might sound remarkable to people listening, but full confidence was expressed in Wes Streeting as Health Secretary. Obviously, though, the Prime Minister's authority, the Prime Minister's position has been very seriously undermined by events of the past week. We stand at around 90 MPs who have publicly called for him to go. Around 160 MPs haven't expressed a view either way, but I think it's safe to say that, a significant chunk of them, at least, also feel that the Prime Minister should go. Indeed, I know I've spoken to ministers who believe the Prime Minister should go, but don't feel that they're able to say that until they know that a leadership contest has been triggered. So, the Prime Minister might be able to go on because of these Labour Party rules that say 81 signatures are needed. But this deadlock is certainly an unhappy one for the government and for the Labour Party. But, it does seem to be the case that unless a candidate emerges who can attract those 80 signatures, then we are where we are, and we're going to stay there, at least for the time being.
Yeah, and I suppose nobody really wants to be the first one to go, do they?
Certainly West Reading didn't want to be the first one to go, but I think the fact that he hasn't done it yet, I think that there is a cost to having marched people up the hill, as it were, even if I think probably he didn't want to go just now. This wasn't the ideal time, but simply the pressure from unhappy Labour MPs following those elections last week has likely pushed us to this position. But no, absolutely right.
Paris, thank you very much. As always, Paris Burskans there, our Westminster correspondent. It's coming up to 12 minutes past 12. Well, it is going down to the wire. Hearts and Celtic will fight it out for the Scottish Premiership title on the final day of the season now, after both sides won their games last night. And what a night it was. Hearts dealt with things pretty clinically, winning 3-0 at home to Falkirk. Fans were keeping one eye, though, on what was happening at Fair Park, where Celtic were being held to a 2-all draw by Motherwell. But then, it was a late twist to the tale.
Motherwell fans all around us. Oh my word! Beaton is coming to the monitor. John Beaton has been called across the monitor. Penalty given!
Oh my God!
Celtic penalty!
Oh my word! Oh my word!
Incredible! It's Kalechi and Acho to win it for Celtic. He scores! Bottom corner! Absolute bedlam! And the away ends! And Celtic have been given an almighty lifeline in this title race!
Well, that was Martin Dowden, who you heard earlier on the commentary there, and that is why he's a bit hoarse today. But controversy certainly, with VAR once again at the centre of it all. The Hearts manager, Derek McInnes, and Celtic boss Martin O'Neill took very different views on that decision.
I kept watching it, I'm thinking, am I missing something here? But, it's no our game to get too involved in, but I think it's a strange decision considering the big decisions we didn't get, whether it was 2 penalties for us at the weekend at Motherwell, certainly one. So that's what it is. We feel as if we're up against everybody. That's how we feel. Siege mentality.
I have seen it back very, very briefly. It's a handball. It looks as if there's also an elbow to the side of the head as well too. But the VAR have asked the referee to come over and have a look at it, and he's no hesitation in giving the penalty.
Well, it seems like just about everybody's having their say on this. The former Match of the Day presenter Gary Lineker said that it may be the worst VAR decision he's ever seen. With me now is renowned football writer Henry Winter. Henry, afternoon to you.
Hi, Hayley.
What's your take on it then?
Well, I saw Gary Lineker's tweet, and I can honestly say I've seen far worse decisions, and this one was obviously incredibly high profile. I think the issue is, how can anyone actually tell? I mean, Nicholson's arm is raised, and under the laws that is always risky, but then the way the ball rebounds off him would suggest it was a header. So inevitably you're going to get the debate about consistency. Derek McInnes mentioned the fact that Hearts didn't get a couple of shouts against Motherwell at the weekend. It's also an issue of the quality of the officials. Personally, I feel the audio should be played live like they do in more mature sports like rugby union and cricket. But look, we've got enough issues with VAR south of the border, and it's kind you've invited me on just to escape from VAR controversy down here. But I just don't see how there could be a definitive take on it, and they should have stayed with the on-field decision, which was no penalty.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, have you? I mean, do any decisions spring to mind for you that you think are perhaps worse than this one? Or at least, well, more, I mean, this has been so controversial.
I mean, I would imagine that most Premier League weekends something would have cropped up, and that's why, you know, the Premier League keep releasing these figures saying, well, our sort of ability to correct mistakes, on-field mistakes, is better than anywhere in Europe. And you look at those statistics, and then you then go online and in newspapers, radio, phone-ins, BBC websites, and it's absolutely, you know, the debate is absolutely endless. And I think the BBC actually appointed a VAR correspondent, certainly to do with it, Dale, who I know well, to do to deal with these issues. So look, I mean, I'm a believer in VAR. I was in Paris at Stade de France when Thierry Henry basically almost cheated the Irish out of the chance of getting to the 2010 World Cup with that double handball, which Gallas then scored from. But so the issue is not so much simply with the technology, but the execution of it, the quality of the officials, and of course in a tribal sport, in an online world, everything is going to be debated and scrutinised.
I mean, are there sort of issues? There's been a lot of changes in football, and sort of rules over handball, sort of being one of them. I mean, sometimes it feels like we've gone too far down the line of checking and double checking and rewriting the rules. It almost takes just the momentum out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's become too forensic. It was initially supposed to be just for clear and obvious errors, and now it's almost like you've got sort of CSI officials running around working out things. And I don't like this element of the homework is being marked from, well, in English football's case, often 200 miles away from the game. There isn't that emotional attachment with the game. I do think that's a worry. Look, VAR is here to stay. We're heading into a World Cup with the elite referees in the world, and everyone go, oh, well, hang on a sec, they can do VAR correctly, and at major tournaments. And also, if you see the elite competitions like the Champions League, the decisions are very quickly taken. There's actually not much interference for VAR. They trust the officials in the middle. So it's a question of trust. It's also a question of investing more in grassroots and getting a better crop of officials coming through north of the border, and you would know that better than I would, but certainly south of the border.
And I mean, overall, Henry, the eyes of the world seem to be on Scottish football at the moment, and through this title race, it's been so unique to have another team challenging. What have you made of it all?
I think it's the best title race in Europe. I mean, we've got a good one down here in England, obviously Arsenal against Manchester City, but I think what Hearts have done under Derek McInnes, and he's obviously going to have a siege mentality going into Celtic Park at the weekend, but it's interesting when it gets described as a fairy tale, because anyone who's followed Brighton and Hove Albion's fortunes under Tony Bloom and Jamestown Analytics, and the way they have this data-driven recruitment, is not actually completely surprised, because Jamestown Analytics, what they do is they go into individual countries, but they only work with one club, and they bring in these amazing players from the Slovakian second division and where else. And I think Hearts signed 11 players at the start of the season for sort of a net outlay of £200,000, £300,000, £400,000.
Yeah.
So it's intelligent recruitment, brilliant manager. It's not a fairy tale what Hearts are doing. It's the appliance of science and some really good characters within.
Yeah, plus I think Bloom said, it's going to be a long-term project, wasn't it? So, this year's been good, but who knows what we'll see in the years to come.
Well, absolutely. And what's very interesting with Tony Bloom, if you know him, he's obviously focused on Hearts, but he's also focused on improving, and I don't mean that in a patronising way, but lifting the level of Scottish football generally. So he talks about coefficients. Hearts doing well, other teams doing well. Good for Scottish coefficients. Means they'll get more money, they'll last longer in Europe. And also, if you are the Scottish League, you can actually go and talk to the broadcasters and say, listen, we have given you the best title race in Europe, give us some more cash.
Yeah, interesting. Henry, thanks very much. Really good to get your views on it all. That's a football writer, Henry Winter.
When the situation is all too familiar, when the characters are a bit too close to home, when you just can't help but laugh at it all.
Your mum does that all the time.
My mum? You do that all the time.
I don't. Do I? Maybe. Do I?
Nothing brings us together like great TV. And a TV like licence covers you to watch all TV channels, plus BBC iPlayer, so you can keep laughing along with your favourite sitcoms. It also funds everything you love from the BBC, including live radio, like this.
Yeah, you're listening to Lunchtime Live on BBC Radio Scotland. Now, a report out today highlights the devastating impact of coerced debt on women in Scotland. It's often described as an invisible form of domestic abuse. The findings from Scottish Women's Aid show it's a widespread and systemic problem. Dr. Jen Glinsky is the author and a national policy lead for economic abuse at Scottish Women's Aid, and she's been telling me why they're trying to raise awareness. Coerced debt involves an abusive partner or ex-partner, and that's quite important, building up debt in your name either without your consent or without your knowledge or through force, threat or coercion. So this could be anything, anywhere where you can imagine debt occurring. We see it most frequently with loans, credit cards, drug debt, council tax arrears, as well as rent arrears. So we hear from women that, for example, their partner has built up credit card debt in their name that they had no idea about, and then the women are held liable for the debt.
Op de rotonde neem de tweede afslag. Dan op de rotonde neem de eerste afslag naar A772 towards A7
Coerced is a form of economic abuse, and economic abuse is a form of domestic abuse. And ultimately what we're looking at is partners manipulating, sabotaging,
Op de rotonde neem de tweede afslag naar A772 Gilmerton Road. Dan op de rotonde neem de eerste afslag naar A772 towards A7
that hides incredibly well behind romantic relationships. So you might think, moving in together, opening up that first joint bank account. However, when
op de rotonde neem de eerste afslag naar A772 towards A7
they might offer to very kindly take care of paying for the council tax, for example. However, what we then find is that they either don't pay the council tax or they build up debt, and things kind of spiral from there, where oftentimes survivors don't know about the debt and that it has occurred until they're looking to separate from that partner. And that's because they're looking for resources in order to help facilitate that separation. And the debt actually traps them in that abusive relationship.
And how common is this?
So our report didn't look specifically at scale. Our report was more of a deep dive in terms of the forms of economic abuse experienced and the different types of coerced debt and the support available in Scotland. But we do know from other reports across the UK that 4.2 million women in the UK experienced economic abuse in 2024. That was done by a research report by Surviving Economic Abuse. And we know a little bit more about coerced debt, where 1.6 million UK adults have coerced debt. However, none of this data is disaggregated by Scotland, which is why it was so important for us to do a deep dive into coerced debt and survivors' experiences of it. And as with any form of domestic abuse, we know that rates of disclosure are rather low, so we do anticipate that this is a much wider issue, and it actually exceeds 4.2 million women that have been affected and other people
towards
But is this something that makes it even harder for women to leave an abusive relationship?
Yes, absolutely.
Op de rotonde neem de derde afslag naar A7 towards
Galashiels. Economic abuse and coerced debt traps you with the abusive partner. And you'll notice when I said, in the definition of coerced debt, that it can also be done by an ex-partner. And that's the same with economic abuse. So we're hearing time and time again that women and children flee an abusive partner only to then find out about coerced debt that they have and also run into the fact that there are no resources in order for them to stay fed and in order for them to rebuild their lives independently from the perpetrator. So what we find is that women and children remain with abusive partners for longer because they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they cannot afford to pay the debt, or they often return sometimes up to 7 times to an abusive partner because they do not have the finances, and the coerced debt and the economic abuse continues post-separation.
The definition of domestic abuse in Scotland now is a bit wider than it used to be. So we have this idea of coercive behaviour falling within the legal definition now. But does coercive debt, is that part of that? Is this legally recognised as abuse?
So under our domestic abuse legislation, it is. So the legislation is purposely left broad because we knew, perpetrators find new ways to consistently build on sort of the skill set of abuse. We find things like tech abuse at the moment is gaining a lot of attention as well. So these are covered. So coercive control, the definition thereof in our domestic abuse legislation allows for these behaviors to be incorporated. Yeah, we're
we're gaining more traction and more awareness and understanding
Over
of how
700 meter.
course debt fits
Gebruik
within
de
that.
middelste rijstrook om de rotonde op te rijden en dan neem de derde afslag naar A7 towards Gallashiels.
Have got a poor credit record or whatever other implication there may be.
So that was a big thing that we were looking into through the report, and the resounding answer from survivors and the advocacy workers that were interviewed is that there simply isn't enough support. One, we lack a very basic awareness and understanding of what economic abuse is and what coerced debt is. So oftentimes the women themselves are not identifying it, but then when they reach out for support, they often encounter professionals who are also not aware of what this is. We also see that there's a lot of re-traumatization and victim blaming. So with debt in particular, and it comes around to, well, you must have done something or you must have known, and it's too bad your name is on it. So we do find that there are some pockets of better practice of recognizing coerced debt for what it is, but the support is incredibly limited. So sometimes survivors do have the opportunity to write down or to write off debt, but more often than not, what women are encountering is that they are disclosing that they have debt, they are disclosing economic abuse, and wherever the creditor is saying, well, I'm very sorry about the circumstance, however, your name is on it and you're therefore held liable. So there are very, very few places to turn at this point in time, which is why we're calling for, a sustained national public awareness campaign and for there to be real, practical, legal, and financial support routes for victim survivors.
Let's talk to Jen Glinsky there from Scottish Women's Aid. Now, air passengers in Europe are being warned that flights will inevitably become more expensive because of the Iran war pushing up the price of jet fuel. The head of the International Air Transport Association, Willie Walsh, says companies have been offering discounts to try to persuade people to travel.
Over 700 meter.
Francesca
Op de rotonde neem de derde afslag naar B6392.
Good afternoon to you, Lisa.
Good afternoon.
So is it inevitable then that the prices are going to go up?
Quite possibly, as this conflict goes on. Of course, nobody knows how long this is going to last. At the moment, the UK airlines are absolutely saying there's no shortage at this point throughout the summer, that they have enough stocks, that actually, it gets to the point after summer, then they can look at US fuel as well when they need to restock. So in terms of access to the fuel, at the moment, it's looking fine. And of course, fuel prices with airlines are actually hedged for the season ahead as well through the summer. However, we don't really know how long the crisis, the war is going to go on, and at some point, yes, it might well become inevitable. Airlines are operating on very, very tight profits in terms of fuel. Fuel is about 30% of a cost, of their costs. So yes, at some point, possibly flights will go up. But we're not at that point at the moment, and we're not at the point of cancellations here, certainly for UK airlines at this time.
Well, it's interesting because I see TUI is saying that it's seen a 10% drop in revenue from UK customers booking summer holidays this year. So do you think people are a bit nervous or maybe reluctant to fly at the moment?
I think the problem is we talk it up,
Over
don't we? And then when you speak things into existence before they happen, and then people see headlines in the newspapers, in the press, saying things like Lufthansa cancels 20,000 flights due to jet fuel issues, which is actually true. But those 20,000 flights between Germany and Poland, and in the UK, we're fine at the moment. They're saying we've got enough stocks. We're going to be okay throughout the summer, and after that, if they do have to look at cancellations, it will probably be on routes that say, BA Hire have Heathrow to JFK, 6 or 7 times a day, and those will probably be amalgamated. So it's not going to be your summer holiday that's affected. But of course, the more people read about it and think and get the fear that there might be a problem, then the more they might start cancelling.
Yeah, but maybe just with cost of living concerns as well, maybe some people are just looking at whether they maybe scale back a holiday this year and maybe do a staycation at home instead.
Always very popular, and we have seen since COVID that people are travelling more than ever. I mean, obviously after COVID we had those 2 very fallow years when people weren't travelling, but since then, year on year, even up to this Easter, we saw record levels of people travelling, whether they were going at home, doing a staycation, arguably staying at home or going somewhere in this country, or going away. We have seen record numbers, and although TUI have said that bookings are down at the moment, most travel operators are saying that they're seeing the levels expected for this time of year, but people are booking later and leaving it to more of a last minute.
Lisa, thanks very much indeed for joining me. Good to talk to you. Lisa Francesca Nand there, travel journalist and host of the Big Travel podcast. You're listening to Lunchtime Live at 12:30. Time to get a summary of the news. Here's Nina.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves says that any Labour leadership contest would plunge the country into chaos. It comes as Angela Rayner, seen as a potential challenger to Sir Keir Starmer, says she has been cleared by HMRC of wrongdoing over her tax affairs. Yesterday, allies of Health Secretary Wes Streeting said they expected him to launch a challenge as soon as today. Our political correspondent, Paris Gurtsinyanis, told us the Prime Minister's position has been much undermined.
We stand at around 90 MPs who have publicly called for him to go. Around 160 MPs haven't expressed a view either way, but I think it's safe to say that, a significant chunk of them at least also feel that the Prime Minister should go. Indeed, I know I've spoken to ministers who believe the Prime Minister should go, but don't feel that they're able to say that until they know that a leadership contest has been triggered. So, the Prime Minister might be able to go on because of these Labour Party rules that say 81 signatures are needed. But this deadlock is certainly an unhappy one for the government and for the Labour Party.
A murder suspect from Glasgow was among the 12 most wanted fugitives with links to Spain, according to the National Crime Agency. 62-year-old Derek Ferguson fled Scotland after a man was shot dead outside a pub in 2007. Thomas Cameron, who was 49, died in the car park of the Auchinleck Tavern in Bishopbriggs. British expats living in Spain and
Rechtsafslaan naar A7.
are being urged to look at the agency's most wanted list. China's President Xi Jinping has told a state
Over 600 meter.
that China
Op de rotonde neemt de tweede afslag naar A7.
no rivals. Mr. Xi said the relationship between the two countries was the world's most important. He had earlier warned of potential conflict over the issue of Taiwan. The White House said the conversation focused on strengthening economic ties. A hotelier in South Uist says local people are delighted about the return of their ferry, the MV Lord of the Isles. People in Uist have been without a ferry service between Lochboysdale and Mallig for over a month because of ongoing disruption to the West Coast ferry network. Callum McCauley from Lochboysdale Hotel says it's great news the Lord of the Isles is
Op de rotonde neemt de tweede afslag naar A7.
The Lord of the Isles is the ferry they always seem to jump to back up another route. So no, there is no confidence. And bearing in mind the Lord of the Isles is now, I think, 37, 38 years old. It's just
Ga rechtdoor gedurende 30,3 kilometer naar B710.
But at best, that is 2 years away, at least, if not 3.
The economy grew faster than many economists had expected in the first 3 months of the year, increasing by 0.6%. The period covered the first month of the war in Iran. A historic site in Edinburgh, which has been in the hands of the Catholic Church since 1834, is to be put up for sale. It's the latest in a string of Scotland's sacred buildings being sold off in recent years, as Jennifer Wilson reports.
The Gillis Centre complex is to be put on the market by the Archdiocese of St Andrews in Edinburgh in September due to maintenance costs. Archbishop Leo Cushley said after a long review, it had been decided investment into the Edinburgh site would not be the best use of resources. Church events will continue to take place until the historic site is sold. The Catholic Church and Church of Scotland have said changing congregations and financial issues have led to more of Scotland's sacred buildings being sold.
Dumfries has been named as the place with the highest percentage of people at risk of the effects caused by low tree cover in Scotland, according to research by the Woodland Trust. 86% of the Dumfries population has critically low tree equity, with Edinburgh faring best, with just 14% of people in urban areas exposed. And that's BBC Radio Scotland News.
Nina, thanks very much for that. Right, let's get the weather forecast and see, as it seems to be 4 seasons in one day, I think I saw yesterday, Kirstine. What's in store today?
And very much the same today, Hayley. The showery theme continues. Those showers driven in on brisk northerly winds. They'll be most frequent across inland parts of the mainland. Heavy at times with thunder and hail in the mix. The western and northern Isles, as well as coastal areas, will turn predominantly dry this afternoon, certainly west of the sunshine here, but occasional sunshine elsewhere in between the showers. A very cool 9 to 11 Celsius in the north and east, particularly in exposure to the northerly flow, which will touch gale force at times in the Northern Isles, the coasts of Caithness and northeastern Aberdeenshire. 13 Celsius at best in the south and west. Through this evening and tonight, showers will become much fewer and further between. A ridge of high pressure to the southwest exerts its influence. A few showers will continue in the north overnight, otherwise dry with clear spells. Lows around 1 to 3 Celsius across parts of eastern, central and southern Scotland. The odd shelter spot will dip to around freezing with a touch of frost. 4 to 6 Celsius in the north and west. So tomorrow will dawn on a chilly note for many, but a lot of dry weather with some spells of morning sunshine. A few showers in the north initially, drifting southwards during the day, but they'll be fairly few and far between with some sunshine holding on. Again, 9 to 11 Celsius in the north, 11 to 13 in central and southern areas. Still a very chilly feel in the northerly wind, which will stay strong across all of the
Digital radio,
BBC Sounds,
and your smart speaker.
play BBC Radio Scotland.
You're listening to Lunchtime Live on BBC Radio Scotland with you until 1:30. Now, the White House says that President Trump had a good meeting with China's President Xi on his visit to Beijing. In a statement, Donald Trump's office said the two men agreed that the Strait of Hormuz should be open and support the free flow of energy. Donald Trump said the relationship between the two nations was one of the most consequential in world history.
The American and Chinese people share much in common. We value hard work, we value courage and achievement, we love our families, and we love our countries. Together we have the chance to draw on these values to create a future of greater prosperity, cooperation, and happiness, and peace for our children. We love our children. This region and the world is a special world with the two of us united and together.
Our Beijing correspondent Stephen McDonald is following this visit and joins me now. Hi there, Stephen.
How you going?
Well, thank you. This is a theme, it seems, that's been sort of echoed by President Xi as well. You know, he's talking about this being the most important bilateral relationship in the world, and the two countries have to make it work and never mess it up.
Yes, well, I mean, it is interesting that they've just had a banquet. Yet another stage of today's sort of mega events after mega event. The latest has been a banquet involving speeches from both of them. And at that banquet, Xi Jinping said that really they needed to cooperate rather than be competitors with one another. I mean, the thing is, though, I think most would recognise, sure, you can find areas of cooperation, but they clearly are competitors. There's no getting away from it. They're competitors on the world stage when it comes to tech industries, whether it comes to attempting to dominate the world, finding friends in the world, their ideologies, you name it. And yet, they do have to find, as you mentioned, ways to get on for no other reason than we need peace in the world. And so for that, I think for that reason, most would welcome the warm words between them, whether or not any massive breakthrough is achieved or not.
And yet it's not that long ago, you know, since China was top of President Trump's sort of bad list, you know, with his trade tariffs. I mean, how does the relationship seem? Do they set that aside and just try to, you know, make sure this relationship works equally for both countries?
Well, you know, here, down here at street level in Beijing, a year ago, if I was to go and speak to people and ask them about Donald Trump, the US government and all these threats and tariffs, people might say, well, you know, we're not quite happy with all this stuff coming from Washington, blaming them for the trade war and the like. And even today, Xi Jinping said that no one wins a trade war. They're unwinnable. Now, you compare that to the comments from Donald Trump, where he was not so long ago saying not only are trade wars great, but they're easy to win. found out soon enough that it wasn't going to be the case with China. Xi Jinping stood up to him, the tariff onslaught didn't work, and now we have this détente which remains in place for the moment at least. So I think that détente has helped in terms of mending relations. I suppose Donald Trump can't go back to that using tariffs again. It clearly hasn't worked on China, so they need another way forward. And I think that way forward is to at least find some areas where they can cooperate, even if they have huge differences, especially political differences.
And interesting that President Trump seems to be accompanied by a slew of American tech industry bosses, Tesla's Elon Musk, Nvidia's Jensen Yang, among others. This is really, I suppose, what a lot of this is about, isn't it? Trying to open up the best opportunities they can for all of this tech investment.
Yeah, and they all went along to the banquet as well at the Great Hall of the People in recent hours. I mean, we could add to the list. You mentioned Tim Cook from Apple. We've got Boeing, MasterCard, you name it. Yeah, absolutely. I think they would like to get better access to the Chinese market, and that's been a sticking point from both sides. Access to each one another's markets. So if they can agree on a few things like that, for example, they're saying they've put in place some sort of a mechanism to iron out their differences over the next 3 years. I haven't gone into a lot of detail about it because we don't know the detail. We don't know how it's going to work, how this mechanism is going to operate. But for all those CEOs who accompanied Donald Trump, they'd be hoping that at least it's a step in the right direction. They're not going back to the high-level friction of the tariff war times. I mean, that said, they've still got these big political problems though. I mean, you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz, for example, and they both agreed that the Strait of Hormuz should be open. Well, that's true. They have probably agreed to that, but how do you achieve that? And that's a difficult thing. They would disagree on the means by which a deal is done. Because, for example, China thinks Iran should have civilian nuclear power. That's not something that Donald Trump thinks they should have. Like it's all rosy and like I say, it's just the trick is to work out, well, there are the differences, there are the places we can't agree on. But what can we agree on? Well, maybe trade is one area.
Interesting. Steve, thank you.
Tortoises.
Plus cows, horses, pigs and goats.
And a sheep shop with dancing sheep.
Think they'll do the samba?
Dad.
The Northumberland County Show, 23rd of May at Bywell. Book early and save with advanced e-tickets at northcountyshow.co.uk.
Across the Scottish borders and North Northumberland.
Greatest Hits Radio. Sound like this.
Turner with We Don't Need Another Heroes from the film Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Great song, written by Terry Britton, who also produced it, and the wonderful Graham Lyle. There you are. Now, feeling hungry?
Okay, it's a Foodie Thursday, and Nigel Barton about to perform another of the kitchen's greatest hits. Today it's an orange fool with orange shortbread.
The Simon Mayo Drive Time Show.
Today from 4 on Greatest Hits Radio.
Orange fool. I've got an image in my mind, but I shouldn't really.
Verderop zijn medewerker gemeld.
Featuring Chaka Khan, Ain't Nobody. Well, you know what Simon Mayo's doing today? Him and Nigel and his Orange Fool. There's Kate Thornton before that with lunchtime anthems, and then afterwards, Jackie Brambles from 7 will have a Eurovision special Great Conversation. Can you imagine? A great conversation about Eurovision? Well, it'll happen. Tonight with Jackie, after 7, and don't forget, there's Andy Crane with his top 10 at 10. as the quo, rocking all over the world. And I'll be back tomorrow morning at 10. Friday show, yes, tomorrow at 10, with, of course, Popmaster at 10:30. Kate Thornton is imminent, but I'll see you tomorrow at 10. Till then, have a great day.
Greatest Hits Radio.
Do it for your wife, who told you to pick up bread, but instead you picked up Fred, your grandson, again. And now your daughter is calling because he missed football. That's the 4th time this month.
Over
If you're waiting for his future can ever buy,
rechts aanhouden naar
do it for your wife and little Freddie.
Book a free test today at bootshearingcare.com and take advantage of our interest-free payment plans. Boots, with you for life. T's and C's apply.
Go from bucket list to bond with EasyJet. Find that perfect spot and buy the perfect pool with the perfect log. And now's the perfect time to book it. Get package holidays from £289 per person and flights from £37 one way. Book now at easyjet.com. Get out there. Selected dates and flights able through October. Limited availability. Holidays also protected. T's and C's apply.
They were everyday customs officers.
We're not the police, we're not the spooks.
Then they were asked to go undercover.
You are suggesting we send a bunch of officers in false moustaches.
We can't afford false moustaches.
And infiltrate Britain's most notorious drugs gang.
Feels dangerous. I don't know, something was dangerous. It's just not life.
From the creator of The Gold, Steve Coogan, Tom Burke, legends. Based on a true story of one of the most extraordinary criminal investigations ever conducted. Now playing only on Netflix.
It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep on going under. Get that Toyota electric feeling with the all-new, all-electric Toyota Urban Cruiser. Available with 0% APR representative and £1,500 deposit contribution. And save £1,500 for the Toyota Electrified Saving. Visit your nearest Toyota centre. Price of $29995. Available on Toyota PCP or finance through Toyota Financial Services by 30th of June 2026. Optional final payment and damage fees may be required. See website conditions apply.
To find out the value of your gold, jewellery, platinum and palladium, text GOLD to 66777 or visit textgold.co.uk.
Unexpected item in bagging area. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have somewhere you needed to be? Just pick that item back up and give it another scan. Unexpected item in bagging area. Nope. Try again. And would you look at that? There's quite a queue building up behind you.
When you're done with slow checkouts, get straight to the good bit. 0 to chocolatey in milliseconds.
Don't miss the Mattress Mayhem sale at Tweedale. Buy any size mattress from our special range of back care, twin sprung, pocket sprung and memory foam mattresses, and we'll give it to you for half price. Yes, half price. We'll also deliver anywhere in the borders for free. We've also taken massive reductions off our fantastic range of divan beds, some at even less than half price. Don't miss out on big bed and mattress savings right now at Tweedale in Cross Street, Kelso.
Curry's Emergency Services.
My husband's frozen. Doom scrolling new TVs with football.
Stuck while choosing. Happens a lot. Check his current TV.
Motion's blurry. Sound is awful.
Stay calm. He needs a Sony Bravia 8 Mark II OLED. Lifelike picture and acoustic surface audio plus. Stadium sound straight from the screen. My fans on the way.
Don't get stuck. Get back in the game with free delivery on all TVs 50-inch and above. Curry's beyond expectations. UK only, 18 plus. Delivery from 6th of the 5th to 19th of the 7th. Geographical restrictions and T's and C's apply.
The latest news you need to know in a jiffy.
Switching to Virgin Media's lightning fast broadband is easy. We'll handle everything for you. That's smooth broadband and smooth switching. Smooth like a walrus on a speedboat powering through open fjord waters. Yeah, that's smooth. Visit virginmedia.com. New customers only. Virgin Fibre areas. Restrictions and credit checks apply. No subsidies. Online only.
Rechts aanhouden.
Thank you, Ken. It's Kate Thornton picking things up from here with Thursday's afternoon show on Greatest Hits Radio. On FM, DAB, smart speaker, and now playing on rail.
Across the Scottish borders and Northumberland.
This is Greatest Hits Radio.
The top stories this hour.
Angela Rayner's been cleared of deliberate wrongdoing and investigation over the stamp duty she paid on a flat in Brighton. It means there's no issue stopping her from running for Labour leader, as reports continue to suggest the Health Secretary is about to resign. Sir Keir Starmer's former deputy indicated she could throw her hat into the ring, but insists she won't trigger a contest. Former Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn has his own memories of being challenged.
Phone calls, half-hour intervals of people resigning from the shadow cabinet, and then deputations saying I should resign and disappear. And I pointed out that I was elected by the membership and the union supporters, not by Labour MPs.
Meanwhile, the Chancellor says now is not the time to risk economic instability as she responds to latest GDP figures. The UK economy unexpectedly grew in the first month of the Iran war in March. And a week on from the Holyrood election, official business is getting underway at the Scottish Parliament.
John Ramsay Swinney, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and his successors, according to law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
First Minister John Swinney was the first to be sworn in this morning. Newly elected MSPs will appoint a presiding officer this afternoon. TransPennine Express has confirmed it's unable to run any services between Edinburgh and Newcastle for the rest of the day due to a signalling fault. It says its tickets are being accepted by other train operators, with some additional L&ER services stopping at Reston. Campaigners say abusive partners are forcing some women into debt and pushing them towards illegal loan sharks. Scottish Women's Aid says victims are becoming financially trapped and is calling for more support and protection. And Madonna, Shakira and K-pop band BTS will co-headline the halftime show at the World Cup final this summer. It's been curated by Chris Martin from Coldplay.
Listen to the Simon Mayo Drive Time Show anytime on the Rayo app, home of the music and presenters you love.
Mix of sunshine and showers with the chance of thunder this afternoon, light winds, highs of 11 Celsius. That's the latest. I'm Paul Bailey.
Lunchtime anthems.
Yes, I've got an hour of lunchtime anthems. There are gaps in my playlist. So, get in touch. What can I play for you and what can I say for you? Where are you? Who are you with? What are you having for your lunch? Don't be shy. 61054. Sound like this.
Such a bad time. Tried to hurt me, but now I know.
Value courage and achievement. We love our families and we love our countries. Together we have the chance to draw on these values to create a future of greater prosperity, cooperation.
Yeah, I want you, baby, slow hands, like smoke dripping out my head, and I'm wondering on no chance that I'm leaving here without you on me. I know
Verlaag de snelheid verder.
slow hands.
In bulletins this afternoon.
On to the weather, breezy and cool this afternoon with variable cloud and frequent showers. These will turn heavy for many and will be occasionally thundery. Highs of 11 Celsius in Edinburgh, 12 in Belfast and 13 in Cardiff and London. And that's the BBC News. It's now 5 past 4.
Op de rotonde neemt de derde afslag naar A72, Cliff Road.
Jeremy Barr.
So West Streeting, for all that he told us, is totally committed to the health service, has resigned, and it must be to have a tilt at becoming Prime Minister to replace Keir Starmer. Either that or Starmer said you're mucking around too much.
Op de rotonde neemt de eerste afslag naar A707 towards Selkirk.
Then the next question is, does Angela Rayner say, well, look, my tax affairs are now straightened up, so I'm in too? And then the third question is, when Starmer looks at Rayner Streeting, does he say?
Lost confidence in Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. Well, earlier the Chancellor warned that a leadership contest would plunge the country into chaos and put the economy at risk. Rachel Reeves is speaking to the BBC after official figures showed the UK economy grew by 0.6% in the first 3 months of the year.
Today's numbers show that the economy is growing strongly, and because of that growth, we'll be able to do more to invest in our public services and to support families and businesses with the cost of living. But that is only possible because of the economic stability that we have brought back to our economy. And we shouldn't put that at risk by plunging the country into chaos at a time when there is conflict in the world, but also at a time when our plan to grow the economy is starting to bear fruit.
Well, let's speak to Emma Burnell, who's editor of the news site Labour List. Emma, afternoon to you.
Op de rotonde neemt de eerste afslag naar A707 towards Selkirk.
Yes, Wes has now resigned, which is obviously the first of 2 steps. The second to be running for the leadership and trying to gather those 81 names.
So what happens now?
Ja, recht door gedurende 10,4 kilometer naar B714.
So next is to see whether he can gather those formal nominations and become a candidate. Beyond that, it's whether Keir Starmer then decides to run in any contest, and then we see who else might put their name forward.
Okay, and also we had this news today from Deputy Angela Rayner that she has now been cleared of any allegations over her tax situation. So does that clear the way for her to contest if she wants to as well?
Yes, I think that was one of the biggest hurdles facing Angela, was the fact that she did have that hanging over her head. That is no longer hanging over her head. She has paid what the difference and has been exonerated of wrongdoing, which is, I think, key. Because if she'd been found to have not just made a mistake, but done so deliberately, it would have been impossible for her. But that is not the case, and she is now very much in contention.
So, I mean, if it's very hypothetical, and she said this morning in an interview that she would not be drawn into hypotheticals over a leadership contest, but could she be a sort of candidate for the left of the party?
As I say, it's getting less hypothetical by the second. Now that Wes has gone, we are in that zone. The left will want to have a candidate. I think a lot of people were hoping that might be Andy Burnham, but given where we are today, that doesn't seem like it's going to be possible unless an awful lot of pieces fall into place very, very quickly. So it may well be that it's going to be Angela as a candidate that the left decides that they get behind.
And do we know whether that would suit Andy Burnham? I mean, have there been any conversations that we know of between the two of them?
Well, we've seen photographs of them, having a conflab. I think it was over the weekend. Maybe a million years ago, who knows at this moment. But yes, there clearly has been conversations happening. They are, they represent areas not too far from each other. So there's an awful lot of common ground there. I don't think they'll ever choose to run against each other.
Yeah. So just a little bit of sort of noise on the line there. I wonder if you're on the phone, if you could just hold it maybe just a little bit away, see if it makes any difference.
Is that better?
No, it's not. It's not that great, I'm afraid. Well, bear with me for a minute and see if it comes good. But there's still something like, although about 80 MPs had essentially, said that they didn't have any faith in Keir Starmer remaining as leader, there's still about 160 who haven't publicly declared a view. So there's quite a big unknown quantity here, isn't there?
Right. I think once MPs are forced to make a choice, they will want to see him put themselves forward, and having done that, they will then decide if they believe that the right candidate is there for them to support, or if they just want to stick with the Prime Minister, who would automatically be on any ballot.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there, Rachel. Thank you very much indeed, though, Emma, I beg your pardon for joining me. Emma Burnell, there, editor of the news site Labour List. Well, things finally beginning to move, it seems, at Westminster. And as I mentioned there, the Chancellor with some better news this morning that the UK economy grew by 0.6% in the first 3 months of the year. It also appears that confidence among Scottish businesses is high, despite concerns about the effect of the conflict in the Middle East. Let's get the latest on that with Mary Spowage, who is director of the Fraser Valander Institute at the University of Strathclyde. Mary, afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
So tell me more about what this report tells us then about how firms are feeling in Scotland.
So what I would say is that when we ask firms how they feel about the previous 3 months, and this fieldwork was done in March and April, they're not hugely positive. We do have all of our indicators in negative territory, although improving a little bit from previous quarters. So that's not such great news. But what seems to be more optimistic is firms' views of what might happen over the next 6 months. They are in positive territory about their sales increasing over the next 6 months despite the economic headwinds, and this was after the start of the Iran conflict, so it's really interesting to see that relative positivity, although it is still much more negative than we've seen in other periods of time. It is the most positive result we've seen since the end of 2024, so that's something to hold on to in terms of optimism in the economy.
And what sort of signs of impact are we seeing on business from the war in the Middle East? I know that the official figures this morning probably just touch on that a bit. But is it too soon, or what do you forecast the impact of that might be?
Well, businesses are definitely pointing to an increase in their energy costs. Almost 80% of businesses said to us that their energy costs have increased over the last period, and an even higher number expect them to further increase over the next 6 months. So that's, whilst turnover might be fairly healthy, even if that's the case, these increased costs also, will squeeze margins considerably. Also concerns about importing costs that perhaps firms have either already seen or anticipating to see over the next 6 months, as perhaps some supply chains are disrupted given that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, for example. So there's definitely concerns being flagged about increasing costs for businesses, which of course may well be passed on to consumers and increase inflation.
And I mentioned there the UK GDP figures of 0.6% in the first 3 months of the year, Mary. Better than some people, I think, have been expecting. What's your reaction? Is Rachel Reeves right to take some solace in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is much better than most people were expecting, and it is March that's driving a lot of that, and it seems pretty broad-based across the economy. Good growth in manufacturing and across services, including consumer-facing services, with quite a buoyant story to tell about the retail market. So yes, definitely good news, and the questions will be, will this continue to happen as we move through the spring and into the summer, when perhaps higher prices are going to continue to bite on people's bottom lines. We've already seen it in petrol prices. What will be the impact perhaps when it feeds through to household energy bills in July, for example, when the price cap is reviewed?
Okay, Mary, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Mary Spowage, there, Director of the Fraser of Allender Institute. You're listening to Lunchtime Live, 1:15 now, and it's all beginning to move at Westminster with Wes Streeting just resigning as Health Secretary, beg your pardon, saying he's lost confidence in Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. Our political editor, Glenn Campbell, joins me from Westminster now. So, Glenn, what does this mean for Labour?
Well, it's obviously a huge moment in the battle for the future of the Labour Party. I think it's probably worth sharing some of the key quotes from what is quite a lengthy letter from Wes Streeting to the Prime Minister offering his resignation as Health Secretary for England. In the text he says, "There are good reasons for me to remain in post, but as you know from our conversation earlier this week, having lost confidence in your leadership, I concluded that it would be dishonourable and unprincipled to do so. But where we need vision," he says, "we have a vacuum. Where we need direction, we have drift. This was underscored by your speech on Monday. Leaders take responsibility," says Wes Streeting, "but too often that has meant other people falling on their swords. You also need to listen to your colleagues, including backbenchers, and the heavy-handed approach to dissenting voices diminishes our politics." And perhaps the key section of this letter from Wes Streeting to Sir Keir Starmer is, "It is now clear," he says, "that you will not lead the Labour Party into the next general election, and that Labour MPs and Labour unions want the debate about what comes next to be a battle of ideas, not personalities or petty factionalism. It needs to be broad, and it needs to be the best possible field of candidates. I support that approach, and I hope that you will facilitate this." So Wes Streeting clearly looking towards a leadership contest in the period ahead, but that will depend, first of all, on how the Prime Minister responds to this resignation letter. It does not include a formal declaration of a challenge to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister could respond to this by setting out his own timetable for departure from that office, or if he sees this as the beginnings of a leadership challenge, he could do what he did the other day and say to Wes Streeting, well, if you want this job, if you want there to be a contest, you will need to formally challenge and demonstrate that you have the support under the Labour Party's rules to do so, which would be the backing of 81 MPs. So we'll need to see in the next while how this develops and how the Prime Minister responds. But if we are about to have a Labour leadership contest, I'm sure there will be others that will want to come forward and offer their names as well.
Yeah, and Glenn, just what do you sense is the sort of mood and is momentum building here? Because interestingly, earlier in the week, the affiliated unions to Labour all got together and said, criticised him, saying that Sir Keir Starmer, they didn't think would lead the party into the next general election. So give us a sense of just how wide that feeling seems to be.
I think it is pretty...
Links afslaan naar Mill Street.
Yeah, let me get there first.
Links afslaan naar A707, Heatherley Terrace. Dan links afslaan naar Mill Street.
Also warning strongly against that. I think in terms of numbers, we got more than 100 MPs taking that position, something approaching 90 demanding a leadership contest. But I think a broader view that whether it's under Keir Starmer or somebody else, there needs to be a change in approach, an increased pace in the change that the government wants to deliver. I don't think anybody's particularly happy about the status quo. In terms of what has just happened, this appears to be a call for a leadership contest, but it is not that direct challenge from Wes Streeting to the Prime Minister. He's leaving some room for the Prime Minister to decide whether he wants to
Linksafslaan naar Winfield Road.
Been very
Dan rechtsafslaan naar Rogers Road.
that he will not do, whether his position on that has changed or not. We will have to see
Linksafslaan naar
in the
Winfield
next wee
Road.
while.
Dan rechtsafslaan naar Rogers
For
Road.
that, Glenn Campbell there, our political editor, live from Westminster. Right, from one parliament to another now. Smart dress, floral buttonholes and fluffed lines have all been part of the first official sitting since the Holyrood election last week. The MSPs have been sworn in and a new presiding officer will be elected this afternoon. Here are just some of them.
I, Yipe Chow Turvey. I, Yipe Chow Turvey. Do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance.
Do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance.
I, Malcolm Offord. Do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God.
Before I begin, my allegiances to the people of Scotland, who I hope to create a fairer, more equal future where nobody is born to rule.
Well,